My brother and I couldn't find a job, so we secretly worked as male models at a club. A pair of rich sisters asked us, "You're so young, have you slept with a woman yet?" My brother answered with innocent eyes, "I slept with my mom when I was little." I almost vomited blood on the spot. Luckily, the rich sisters didn't return the goods, and I became their golden monkey. For the sake of 3 meals a day, I had sex every night with my eyes closed and tears in my eyes. But in the end, the truth will come out. The day the truth came out, I discussed it with my brother. "How much did you get?" My brother held up 2 fingers, "Almost 20 million. So what are we waiting for? We'll split it between us. Let's run." 1. Su Wanfei got up from the bed and threw a translucent nightgown over her. I remained lying there, silently admiring her curves from behind. Although she is already in her 30s, thanks to the expensive skincare products, Su Wanfei's body is still white and smooth, like a young girl's. My wedding is just a few days away. I'd better go out for a while, before my fiancé sees me. Su Wanfei still had her back turned when she said this. It was as if she was giving an order to her employees. What was bound to happen did happen. I was picked up from the nightclub by Su Wanfei and brought here to this mansion to be her golden monkey. But in the end, I still had to give way to the main character. I deliberately put on a look of being aggrieved. "Sister Fei, what about me?" Su Wanfei finally turned her head back and smiled at me. "I just told you to hide for a while, I didn't tell you not to see me anymore. Even after I get married, we can still be like this." I used almost all my acting skills and managed to make my eyes slightly red. "Sister Fei, can't you just not get married?" I think I'm falling in love with you." My lips trembled as I said the last sentence. It was really a bit hard to say something so insincere. Sure enough, Su Wanfei's smile instantly froze. It was obvious that I had overstepped the line. She opened her handbag expressionlessly and pulled out a bank card. "Xiaofei, there's 1 million yuan in this card. Take it and go out with your buddy for a little while. I have to go to the office." Su Wanfei saw that I was taking too long to take the card. She simply threw the card on the bed and walked out of the bedroom without looking back. 10 minutes later, I was standing at the bedroom window. I watched Su Wanfei get into the Rolls-Royce Phantom and quickly pulled out my phone to call my buddy. How's it going over there? I've pretty much set the stage here." 2. As soon as Su Wanfei's foot left the villa gate, I met up with my buddy. Like me, he had been picked up from the male model club by another rich woman and kept in captivity for quite some time. As soon as I entered the room, I saw my buddy Jiang sitting on the bed, crying his eyes out. My heart sank. Could it be that this guy has really fallen for the rich woman and doesn't want to leave? Sitting next to my buddy, I patted him on the shoulder and began to persuade him nicely. You're only in your early 20s. There are plenty of young and beautiful girls out there, so why do you have to hang yourself on Ling Xue's tree? I admit that Ling Xue does have her charms, but don't you think about it, she is Big Brother's woman. Now that Big Brother is locked up, Ling Xue herself has become Big Brother. If we don't take advantage of the situation and run away now, when they find out we're just after their money, will we ever have a good life?" Jiang wiped his tears. "Brother, I'm not reluctant to go." "Then why are you crying?" "Just now, I proposed to her as planned, and she threw me a set of car keys and ran away." I'm not getting too involved in the role, am I?" "You're still my brother." I gave Jiang a thumbs up. Even I was convinced by the acting. Not to mention Ling Xue, who was too close to the situation to see through it. What's the deal with the car keys? This Jiang is like a child. One minute he's crying, the next he's laughing. Her car, a Maybach that she just bought a month ago, is for me. Xue asked me to take it out for a spin to clear my head. We two brothers laughed heartily at this. "How much have you scrounged from Ling Xue during this time?" Jiang obediently opened his wallet. He took out all the bank cards he had obtained from Ling Xue. Together with mine, we calculated that the total cash balance was almost 20 million. Not including the Rolex watches, diamond rings, and gemstone brooches they had given us. Seeing all these dazzling things on the bed, my brother and I both had stars in our eyes. Should we go together or what? 3. Jiang asked me with his innocent eyes. It would arouse suspicion if we disappeared at the same time. How about this, you drive off in the Maybach first, and I'll bring up the rear. Jiang agreed without saying a word. I know him very well, and he is terrified of the woman who has become the big brother. Hurry up and pack, and don't forget all this gold and silver jewelry. I also pointed out Ling Shue's dressing table, which had quite a lot of valuable things on it. Don't worry, I'll make sure to clean it out. Back at his villa, he wanted to put on a show for Su Wanfei. But she hadn't returned yet, so he guessed she was avoiding him. With a slight smile, he called her directly. Sister Fei, can I stay with you for a few more days? I promise, when you get married, I will definitely leave. Su Wanfei was clearly getting impatient. Because I usually behave very well, but today I kept making unreasonable demands. Fei, from the first day you moved into my house, I made it clear to you that I will get married in the future. And the marriage will be decided by the elders of the family. Please stop being unreasonable, okay? Su Wanfei didn't wait for me to answer before hanging up. I put the phone aside and quietly closed the door. Then I gently opened Su Wanfei's safe. Inside were several stacks of cash and valuable jewelry. I picked them up like shopping at the supermarket and put them in a shopping bag. Sister Fei, since you are so ruthless, I will not be polite. I cleared the safe first, then the dressing table. Even the gold leaf inlaid in the headboard, I scraped off with a knife without leaving a trace. Once everything was ready, I prepared to meet my brother. Jiang Haoyu had already fled to the suburbs in the Maybach that the rich woman had given him. I took a taxi and began our plan to escape death. 4. In the taxi, I began to lay the groundwork for my best friend. Shui, Haoyu seems to be a bit depressed. Su Wanfei and Ling Shui are best friends, so naturally I also had Ling Shui's phone number. When Ling Shui heard what I said, she didn't think it was a big deal. He's still young, and after I rejected his marriage proposal, he must be unable to accept it. But how could I possibly marry him? He's only my. At this point, Ling Shui paused for a moment. I of course understood what she was going to say next. You're his brother, go comfort him. I shrugged and continued exaggerating. But he just sent me a message, as if it were his last words. He also said he was going to drive his car into the river. On the other end of the line, Ling Shui burst out laughing. That boy Haoyu, don't I know him well? He's good looking, but he's a coward. He's just being a brat. If he dares to jump into the river, I, Ling Shui, will write my name backwards. After hanging up the phone, I rejoined my friends. Standing by the rushing river, Jiang Haoyu asked me in a very unmanly way. This is a Maybach, are you sure you want to push it into the river? I gave him a look of contempt and said. Look at how unmanly you are, it's just a broken car. You think Ling Shui's big brother is doing this for nothing? If it really disappeared into thin air, do you think she would let you go? Compared to the fear of losing his life, Jiang Haoyu still somewhat rationally agreed to destroy the car. This area was already in the suburbs, with few people around. It took a lot of effort for the two of us to push the Maybach to the point where it was about to fall. I dialed Su Wanfei's phone number for the last time. Sister Fei, thank you for taking care of me all this time. But I really can't accept you marrying another man. So, this is the end. Goodbye forever. Su Wanfei finally became anxious. Fei, don't scare me. What do you want? I didn't answer her, and with a strong push, the Maybach crashed into the river with a loud bang. I also threw my phone into the water. 5. That evening, an unprecedented scene of excitement broke out along the Pearl River in the suburbs of Guangzhou. Many onlookers came to see the brand new Maybach that had sunk to the bottom of the river. They sighed with regret. Gee, the rich really have no sense. They drove such a nice car into the river. Another voice said, it wasn't a traffic accident. I heard it was a suicide. Someone drove their car into the river. Could it be that another boss has gone bankrupt? It's very likely. Nowadays, it's hard to make a profit in any business, and even driving a Maybach is just a superficial sign of wealth. A few policemen in uniform came running over and shooed the crowd away. Back off, don't obstruct official business. The onlookers only moved a few steps as a token gesture. Eyes once again began to stare down at the river. Hey, look at those people over there. I don't think they're the police, do you? The crowd looked in the direction the man was pointing, and saw that another group of people had joined the rescue efforts. And they didn't look like nice people at all, with tattoos all over their arms and some of them even had scars on their faces. Do these people look like they belong to the underworld? Exactly, why are they here, and they are even working together with the police? Just as the crowd was lost in their thoughts, two elegant and dignified ladies appeared. Just by looking at their clothes, you can tell they are not lowly people. One of them has long, flowing hair and is wearing a high-end professional suit. The woman standing next to her has big, curly waves in her hair and is wearing a shiny mink coat. Looking out at the surging waters of the Pearl River, Su Wanfei, who had seen many storms, felt an unprecedented panic. Did they really jump into the river? Even though the truth was right in front of her, Su Wanfei couldn't bring herself to believe it. Because just this morning, she had been tenderly making love to her golden monkey for quite some time. It was less than a day, and he was gone. Ling Shui clenched her hand into a fist, and some veins actually bulged on the back of her hand. She said almost between her teeth, "Impossible, Jiang Haoyu is afraid of even cockroaches, how could he dare to commit suicide?" Half an hour later, the search and rescue finally made new progress. A police officer and a gangster appeared in front of Su Wanfei and Ling Shui at the same time. This may be something they left behind, relics. Take a look. As soon as the word relics was mentioned, Su Wanfei and Ling Shui's bodies visibly trembled. Because just a second ago, they were still holding on to fantasies that perhaps these two people could bring good news. Su Wanfei received a phone that had gotten water damage, while Ling Shui received a shirt that was close-fitting. The woman, who had become the leader of the group, cried out in surprise when she saw the shirt. "This is Haoyu's shirt, he's really dead." Su Wanfei was trying her best to control her emotions, but her hand holding the phone could not stop trembling, and she muttered to herself. "Did Xiafita Jiang call me on this phone before?" 6. At that moment, my brother and I were already in the taxi. We were heading to the destination we had planned long ago, a scenic town in the south of the Yangtze River. After we got in, the taxi driver thought he heard wrong. "You really want to take a taxi to the south of the Yangtze River? That's more than 1,000 kilometers away." Without a second thought, I pulled out a stack of 100 yuan bills from the plastic bag. "Just drive, and you won't be shortchanged." The driver then set off cheerfully. I let out a slow sigh of relief as we finally left Yangchang. Even if Ling Shui has great power, it is limited to Yangchang and its surrounding area. Even if she is thousands of miles away in Jiangnan, she is powerless. As for Su Wanfei, although her family is wealthy, she cannot go astray. At most, she can report her disappearance to the police. I fantasized about the good times to come while looking back at my brother. Unexpectedly, he was staring blankly at a pair of Ling Shui's crystal shoes. "Holy shit, brother, you have this hobby?" I didn't realize it before, but my buddy has quite a taste for something quite heavy for someone so young. Jiang Haoyu glanced at me with some grievance. "See the rubies inlaid in the shoes? They're real gems." Jiang Haoyu deliberately whispered these last words in my ear. I left in such a hurry that I couldn't pick it off, so I took the shoe with me. I nodded in admiration. Luckily, we ran fast enough, otherwise Ling Shuifei would have killed us. Another 2 hours passed, and the Maybach limousine had been salvaged. But other than that, there had been no other progress. In despair, Ling Shuifei's emotions got a little out of control. I really didn't expect him to be so deeply in love with me. "Sister Fei, do you know? Even when he was about to jump into the river, he still took my crystal shoes with him. I knew he really liked to see me in the crystal shoes." At this point, Ling Shui had no choice but to accept the truth. When Xiufei called to say goodbye, I thought he was acting, trying to make me regret the marriage. Unconsciously, big tears flowed from Su Wanfei's eyes like they had broken free. "If you knew he was really going to jump into the river, would you have accepted his marriage proposal?" Su Wanfei turned to Ling Shui. Ling Shui had been holding on to Jiang Haoyu's fitted shirt the whole time. "Lao He has been locked up for several years now, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Maybe I should have thought about starting a new life long ago. Sister Fei, what about you? Would you regret breaking off the engagement for Xiaofei?" Su Wanfei fell silent. Her family ran a sports brand. After decades of hard work by her father, the brand was now well known to every household. In order to make his empire more stable, her father proposed a marriage alliance with the second generation of another sports brand. In this way, the two families could account for more than 60% of the market share. Everyone could then rest assured. Before this, Su Wanfei also approved of such a decision. In the world of the rich, relationships are not the most important thing. Anyway, even after getting married, everyone can just go about their own business. But when it came to choosing between securing her position and saving Xiaofei's life, Su Wanfei found that she was actually hesitating. A little brother with a green dragon embroidered on the left and a white tiger on the right ran up to Ling Shuigan to report the latest news. "Boss, the search and rescue work is basically over. No other relics have been found, and there is no." Before the little brother could finish his sentence, Ling Shui yelled like crazy. "Who dares to end without my order? Keep looking. I want to see a body." Su Wanfei's phone rang. It was her fiancé. "Fei, our custom-made wedding dress is ready, do you have time to try it on later?" Since it was a marriage between two big families, Su Wanfei's wedding was of course extremely grand. The wedding dress was also designed by the most famous designer in the industry, and cost nearly 8 digits. Originally, Su Wanfei, like all women, wanted to wear this expensive wedding dress and become the most beautiful bride in the eyes of the public. But now, her reply was, "I'm still busy, let's talk about it in a few days." 7. After more than a day of tossing and turning, my brother and I finally arrived in Jiangnan. We began to live a life of debauchery. We used to be male models at the club, but now we have become the most distinguished guests. We drank all kinds of famous wines and had young girls on our arms. Since we had so much money, my brother suddenly had the idea that it would be a good idea to rent a homestay and become the owner. After all, one should still have some aspirations. I agreed without hesitation. The picturesque mountains and waters next to the small town where we were living in seclusion attracted tourists from all over the country during the holidays. We picked the homestay with the best location and most luxurious decoration. After some bargaining, we agreed on a monthly rent of 500,000 yuan. My brother and I each picked a room with the best view. We slept until we felt like it every day, and when we opened the curtains, we were greeted with a picturesque view. Before I knew it, a month had passed. While browsing the news, I happened to read a piece of news. The princess of the Su family had broken off her engagement and announced to the media that the wedding had been cancelled. I nearly fell over from shock. Is this bitch Su Wanfei crazy? She told me to go into hiding at the beginning, but now she's called off the wedding? Naturally, I don't know the reason, and I don't want to pursue it. I continued to live with my brother, spending every day drinking and partying. 3 years passed in a flash. The bed and breakfast is still the same, but business is not as good as before. It's a little better during holidays when there are more tourists, but sometimes we can't even book one room on weekdays. But the rent of 500,000 yuan per month is not a penny less. Jiang Haoyu and I did some calculations, and the total rent for the homestay over the past 3 years has been 18 million yuan, while the money we have collected is only about 5 million yuan. Subtracting the two, we have actually lost 13 million yuan. In addition, the two of us usually spend money extravagantly, and the money we have scrounged from rich women has actually been almost completely spent. After doing the sums, Jiang Haoyu and I sat in front of the homestay, lost in thought. It turns out that being a boss is so financially draining. If we had known, we would have just put the money in the bank and let it earn interest. "What do we do now, brother?" Jiang Haoyu asked me with his innocent eyes. I sighed and didn't answer. "We'll just have to give up the homestay when the lease expires and take things one step at a time." Jiang Haoyu nodded in agreement. Thinking about it now, I think the days of being supported were better. I didn't have to do anything every day, and I had 1 million yuan pocket money a month. I knew the kid was being a smartass again, but I didn't expect his next words to be, "Brother, why don't we go back to being male models?" I almost slapped him. "You want to go back? Ling Shui has prepared 1,000 ways for you to die, which one do you want?" After closing the guest house, Jiang Haoyu and I went to the club in the Jiangnan town for the last time. The proprietress told me that they had just got a female college student here, very pure, and asked if I wanted to try her. I nodded slightly to indicate my consent, as it would be nice to try something new. The new girl was brought to me by the proprietress, and she did look very young. She had long, shawl-like hair and was wearing a simple dress. She really did look a bit naive, like a college student. I waved at her, and the young lady sat down next to me, a little shyly. Just as I raised my hand to get the bottle, the young lady misunderstood and thought I wanted to hug her. She leaned into my arms, half pushed and half pulled. I shrugged helplessly. Is this really a college student? Life is indeed like a play, all about acting. Jiang Haoyu felt a little depressed, so he gulped down the wine in his glass and even asked the waitress next to him to leave. I patted him on the shoulder. "Brother, you should eat and drink. The worst that can happen is that you'll have to start all over again. Jiang Haoyu looked around with a drunken haze, and suddenly his eyes brightened slightly. Brother, look, that person looks a bit like Ling Shui. I casually replied, if she wants to go back to being a monkey, how could she come to a place like this? No, she really does look like her, and the one standing next to her looks just like Su Wanfei too. I sensed that something was wrong, and quickly turned to look. Sure enough, two noble women had just walked in through the entrance of the club, followed by several bodyguards. Despite not seeing them for 3 years, their mannerisms were unmistakable. Who else could they be if not Su Wanfei and Ling Shui? I whispered a single word in Jiang Haoyu's ear. Run. 8. Su Wanfei must have already found out where I was. She didn't come to this club to ogle the male models, but just stood in the lobby, her eyes scanning the place. Jiang Haoyu and I had wanted to sneak away, but there weren't many people there tonight. In no time, I noticed Su Wanfei's gaze meeting mine. I didn't care about that at the moment, and I jumped up from the sofa and ran. Get her back here. Ling Shui's domineering voice came from behind me. I knocked over a table and ran over a few people along the way. Just as I was about to run out the back door, I was caught by a big man. Jiang Haoyu was not very brave, but he could run faster than a rabbit. When he saw that I was caught, he turned around while running and said, Brother, I'll come back for you. Su Wanfei took me back to the hotel where she was staying. This is the only 5-star hotel in the city. As usual, Su Wanfei liked to book the presidential suite. Ling Shui's thugs didn't treat me kindly at all, tying me up like a prisoner on a stool. Su Wanfei put on a silk pajama and poured a glass of red wine. She stood in front of me and watched me with interest. Fei, you've been living it up for the past 3 years. I helplessly spat out 4 words, thanks to you. Su Wanfei's face was cold with contempt. My safe still has gold and silver jewelry in it, and you've taken it all. If I hadn't found you today, were you going to hide from me forever? I carefully observed Su Wanfei's expression. I found that she didn't hate me completely, and there was even a feeling of lingering affection. At this critical moment of life and death, I could only continue to take a chance. If you weren't going to marry another man, I wouldn't have done such a thing. Even if you give me compensation for the mental distress. Su Wanfei took a sip of red wine in silence. In fact, to her, the money and gold and silver jewelry were nothing at all. So she spent a whole 3 years looking for me, and it shouldn't have been purely for debt collection. Su Wanfei sneered at the corner of her mouth. Before I found you, I really thought what you said was true for a while, but you disappointed me. Your new girlfriend is quite young and pretty. I was speechless. I have been with many women, and I have never been unfaithful. So where did this new girlfriend come from? Su Wanfei continued to talk to herself. I have also brought that girl back, and she is being held in the next room. If you behave yourself, I might consider letting you two meet. It was then that I remembered that when Su Wanfei misunderstood me, I was embracing the fake college girl in my arms. And she was dressed in more modest clothes than the other girls, which is why Su Wanfei misunderstood. Sister Fei, she's not my girlfriend, she's just. Before I could finish my sentence, Su Wanfei took off her pajamas and, with a lot of resentment, blocked my mouth. Her body straddled me, and she switched to full automatic mode. An hour later, Su Wanfei was sweating profusely and whispered in my ear. It still has to be you. Putting on her pajamas again, Su Wanfei straightened her makeup. So, you still like young and pretty ones, right? Su Wanfei's gaze at me had changed a bit, with a kind of submission after being conquered. I laughed a bit speechlessly and said, Sister Fei, that person really isn't my girlfriend, so you can let her go. Once I said this, Su Wanfei became agitated again. Is that brat really that good? She can't even take care of her own life, and she's still protecting her like this. With these words, Su Wanfei slammed the door shut and left. I didn't know what Su Wanfei planned to do to me. Every day, someone would be sent to watch me eat and go to the toilet at regular times, and then continue to tie me back to the stool. So she wants to treat me like a sex slave? Su Wanfei herself didn't seem to be in a hurry to leave. Every night she would appear in this room and force me to pay my dues. After 3 or 5 days of this, I really couldn't take it anymore, and I could only beg Su Wanfei, Sister Fei, please let me go, I'll agree to whatever you want. Su Wanfei saw that I had finally given in, and held up a finger, picking up my chin. The condition was very simple. If you are willing to break up with your girlfriend and obediently go back with me, you can still be like before. That's it? I almost threw up blood. I didn't expect to be treated like a prisoner for a week, and this was the result. Okay. Seeing that I agreed so readily, Su Wanfei was puzzled. Is it willing? You can ask someone to go to the club to find out. Half an hour later, Su Wanfei learned that it was a misunderstanding and she even laughed. Tell someone to untie me quickly. I still have one thing on my mind that I can't rest assured about. Where is my brother Jiang Haoyu? Did Ling Shui capture him? Su Wanfei replied, he may be dying soon. You know, Ling Shui has always been ruthless. 9. Jiang Haoyu and I are like brothers. We have been roommates since college. Plus, we've lived together in Jiangnan for the past few years, and our relationship has long been like that of close brothers. So when I heard Su Wanfei say this, my heart lurched. I practically sprinted out of the hotel at the speed of a 100-meter race. Su Wanfei let me drive, and she sat in the passenger seat. Your brother is really something. He had already escaped, but today he returned for no reason and was captured by Ling Shui's men. He was probably really afraid of being killed by Ling Shui, so he ran to the river and jumped in. It seems that he jumped from that spot. Su Wanfei pointed out the window as she spoke. I turned my head and saw a green river with small hills like hats on both sides. This is an original river that surrounds this small town, and the water should be about 3 or 4 meters deep. I know very well that Jiang Haoyu has been a poor swimmer since college. He didn't learn to swim after a semester of swimming lessons. Jumping into this river, the guy is really risking his life. What's the situation now? Su Wanfei saw that I was anxious, so she called Ling Shui. After listening to her respond a few times, she relayed the news to me. Haoyu is still in the hospital receiving treatment, and I heard that his vital signs have not yet returned to normal. I pounded the steering wheel with my hand. Haoyu, you've already run away, why did you come back? You're really stupid, do you really think that with your skills you can get me out? I slammed the accelerator to the floor and rushed forward recklessly. I had to see my brother one last time. There was a red light at the intersection ahead, but I didn't want to stop, so instead I accelerated and rushed through. But just then, a large truck came barreling down from my left. A piercing horn sounded, followed by a loud rumble, and I was instantly knocked unconscious. 10. I don't know how long it took, but I finally woke up. When I opened my eyes, I saw a white ceiling above me. Next to me was Su Wanfei's familiar voice, Xiaofei, you've finally woken up. I turned my head with some difficulty and realized that I was in the hospital, and I felt a sharp pain all over my body. I let out a hiss between my teeth, which was a little out of control. Xiaofei, don't move. You have broken your arm and a few ribs, so just lie still. Do you want some water? I nodded unconsciously. Su Wanfei seemed to have prepared a glass of cool boiled water by the bedside. She carefully brought the glass to my face with her own hands. Maybe it had been too long since I had drunk water, but I could taste the sweetness of plain boiled water. Thank you, Sister Fei. Su Wanfei's eyes reddened when she saw me like this, and her tears almost fell. Thank goodness you're okay, otherwise I slowly looked up and down at Su Wanfei. Since she was sitting in the passenger seat and was not directly hit by the truck, she did not seem to be injured, except for a piece of gauze on her forehead. Sister Fei, it's all my fault. If I weren't in such a hurry to run the red light. Su Wanfei shook her head, however, this was not a simple traffic accident. Ling Shui said that the driver was not a local and had been working in Yangcheng before. Are you saying that someone deliberately tried to kill you? Su Wanfei's eyes suddenly grew cold. As long as it was sent from Yangcheng, Ling Shui is sure she can find out everything. Let's wait for now. What about my brother Jiang Haoyu, how is he? This is the thing I can't let go. Su Wanfei suddenly laughed when she heard my question. Look who is lying on your right. I turned my head and looked, and there was another patient next to me, who seemed to be asleep. That young and handsome face, who else could it be but Haoyu? Fortunately, he was finally saved. Even the doctor said that it was a miracle that someone could survive drowning for 10 minutes. While we were talking, the ward door opened and Ling Shui appeared with a lunchbox. When she placed the lunchboxes one by one on Jiang Haoyu's bed like a good wife and mother, I really was very uncomfortable. This is the woman who became the big brother's wife, and now she's actually delivering meals. Xiao Fei, you're awake. Now Sister Fei finally doesn't have to blame herself. She always said it was her fault that you got into trouble. I could see that Ling Shui seemed in a good mood today, so I wanted to say a few kind words for my brother. Sister Shui, how you really does like you. He couldn't bear to be rejected, so. Seeing my good brother like this, I'm really afraid that Ling Shui still holds a grudge and is waiting to continue to torment him after she revives him. But before I could finish, Ling Shui interrupted me. We don't need to talk about the past, anyway, how you doesn't remember. I didn't understand what she meant at first, and looked at Su Wanfei in confusion. Su Wanfei explained, the doctor said that maybe it was because Hao Yu's brain was deprived of oxygen for too long, so it damaged part of his memory. I felt like my heart had been hammered by someone, and it really wasn't as simple as I thought. So, good brother, now even I've been forgotten? Perhaps it was because the noise in the ward was too loud, but Jiang Haoyu finally woke up from his deep sleep. With clear, stupid eyes, he smiled and said to Ling Shui, Shui Jie, you've come to feed me again. I stared at Jiang Haoyu without blinking. His expression and demeanor were no different from before. I wanted to know if he really had forgotten me. Jiang Haoyu sensed my gaze and threw me a warm smile. Brother Fei, you're awake too? I was overjoyed. This guy still recognized me, didn't he? But the next second, he held out a palm and asked to shake hands. We first met, my name is Jiang Haoyu. 11. Boom. I felt a tingle in my scalp. I couldn't accept that my best friend, who I had spent every waking moment with, didn't recognize me after just a few days apart. I slowly extended my right hand, which still worked, and held it out by the bed, struggling to say the two words, hello. I kept looking into Jiang Haoyu's eyes the whole time. I wanted to read something in his eyes, but I couldn't find anything. Memories of the carefree days we had spent together came flooding back, and I couldn't help but feel my eyes well up. Since my best friend has lost his memory, it means that all the past friendship no longer exists. I am now just a stranger to him. Even though I have 1,000 feelings in my heart, I can only say those two words now. Just as I was about to withdraw my hand, suddenly, Jiang Haoyu's index finger poked twice in the palm of my hand, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Nima, acting again. With such a good acting skills, why don't you go be an actor? When Jiang Haoyu jumped into the river, his leg hit a rock at the bottom and broke. So the two of us ended up in the orthopedics ward. Because of this, Ling Shui also teased us. Do you two brothers have to do everything together? You were male models together before, and now you've both broken your arms and legs. Are you going to marry each other in the future? Jiang Haoyu quickly picked up the conversation. It's not impossible. Shui, when are you going to marry me? I rolled my eyes as I lay in the hospital bed. This guy is now completely determined not to take the long way around, and just going straight to the altar is the only way forward. A month later, I was discharged from the hospital with my brother. We continued to return to Yangqing to be the golden monkeys of the rich ladies. However, Su Wanfei seemed to be afraid that I would run away again, and she sent a bodyguard to watch over me 24 hours a day. On the surface, she said it was because I had difficulty moving around and she wanted to find a caretaker for me. But what caretaker would stand guard outside my room even when I slept? I repeatedly assured Su Wanfei that I definitely wouldn't run away this time. Not to mention that I have difficulty moving around now, so I couldn't run even if I wanted to. On the surface, Su Wanfei smiled and agreed with me, but then she recruited several new bodyguards. Even outside the walls of the villa, there was a strict guard. After 3 months of hard time, I had recovered quite a bit. I found an excuse to meet up with my buddy Jiang Haoyu. We sat in a coffee shop chatting, but there were 10 bodyguards outside the shop. Even passers-by turned their heads to look inside, trying to see what big shot was sitting in the coffee shop. Feeling a little embarrassed, I chose a seat at the far end. Now that we're all healed, what do you say, are we still running? 12. Jiang Haoyu hesitated for a moment, and then stammered. Brother, I feel like I do like women who are a little older. I took a sip of coffee. So you're not afraid of Ling Shui now? Before, you said you often woke up in the middle of the night, because you had nightmares that Ling Shui was going to kill you. Jiang Haoyu laughed. That's because I've taken all her money and I feel a bit guilty. But now that I've pretended to have amnesia, Sister Shui has treated me like a completely different person. I've almost forgotten about that incident myself. You're something, pretending to have amnesia to the point where you even believe it yourself? Jiang Haoyu added a few spoons of sugar to his coffee. Brother, to be honest. In fact, I don't think we're cut out to be bosses. We've ruined a business that was worth over 20 million yuan in just 3 years. I think we'd be better off just staying at the villa and being gold-plated monkeys. I was also a bit quiet. Over the past few months, under Su Wanfei's meticulous care, I have indeed led a completely laid-back life. Apart from having less freedom, I can't find anything wrong with it. So you'd better think carefully, there's no going back. Jiang Haoyu seemed to have made up his mind a long time ago. He leaned over and whispered in my ear. Guess what? Just yesterday, Shui Jia actually proposed to me. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. Is this still the woman who became the big brother's wife? So, did you say yes? Jiang Haoyu's face actually had a hint of shyness. How could I say no? The diamond ring with the pigeon's egg size dazzled my eyes. Not long after, the cause of the traffic accident was investigated. The mastermind behind it was the rich second generation who had been regretted by Su Wanfei. He couldn't accept the fact that he lost to a male model, so he wanted to kill me. With conclusive evidence, the rich second generation was sentenced to 5 years in prison for intentional homicide. 6 months later, my best friend and I held our wedding ceremony. Ling Shui was right, we even chose the same day to get married. What left me speechless was that the owner of the club from back then was also in attendance. He even thanked Jiang Haoyu and me in person. He said that since we had both turned from rags to riches, there were now so many young men waiting to be male models at his club that they were lined up all the way to the Pearl River. My best friend and I looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. Young people nowadays are really perceptive, better than we were back then, and they don't take any detours. I wish them success, seniors.